Today, we have the privilege to participate in communion, to be reminded that the cost of our forgiveness was paid for by the death and resurrection of Jesus. Now, often in these moments, we would read a passage from a gospel account describing the last meal that Jesus had with his disciples, how the bread and cup were passed, and how Jesus tells them that he's about to be betrayed and die. And then his disciples freak out. That's not Greek, that's just a Davism. Then if we read a little further, we see that after the meal, Jesus and a few of his disciples went off to the Garden of Gethsemane. Now, Jesus had spoken to them in this very place many times before, but never had he said anything like he was about to say now. Never had he looked at them like he was looking at them now. His eyes dark with trouble, his lips trembling as he spoke. He said, "My soul is overwhelmed to the point of death. So stay here and keep watch." Then finding a spot not far from them, he collapsed. And with his face buried in the soil, he said, "Father, if it is possible, take this cup of suffering from me." In 1906, a French anthropologist named Arnold van Gennep developed a concept known as liminal space. Now, liminal space is created when you experience something that is completely uprooting in your life, something that shakes you to the core, a major crisis, something that brings you to your knees. The garden was liminal space for Jesus. He's lying there on the ground in the middle of the night, begging his Father for another way. Please, no, not the cross, anything but this. But this passage shows us this beautiful tension that Jesus lived in. He's both creator and human. He has all the power, but yet he bleeds, he cries, and yes, experiences pain. The agony, the anxiety, the overwhelming weight of the inevitable. It's enough to make a person sweat blood, which, according to the text, is exactly what Jesus did. And while you and I have probably never sweat blood, I imagine that you know what it feels like to agonize. You know what it feels like to be overcome with anxiety to the point of being overwhelmed. Overwhelmed with a crisis that literally brings you to your knees. I know I do. You see, liminal space is the in-between. It's the in-between of the darkest and the break of day. It's about being in the garden of lament. It's about being between the table of the Last Supper and the empty tomb of the resurrection. And although this space can feel completely unbearable, it's in the confusion. It's in the not knowing. It's in the doubting that something incredible can happen. In the Latin, the word liminal means threshold. A threshold isn't something you stay in. It's something that you walk through. See, Jesus knew that he had to walk through the garden to get to the cross. He knew that he had to pass through the lament to finally let go. And it was in the garden that Jesus uttered those famous words, "Not my will, but yours be done." It was in the garden that Jesus gives us a master's class on lament. He was teaching us how to be in that in-between, how to let the pain of our present prepare us for the promise of tomorrow. You know, in life, you can't escape trouble. Trouble will come. But if we believe that we're loved like Jesus said, then our job is to trust that in the strife of today, that it's paving a way for a new tomorrow. Would you take the next few minutes and pray? Take time and reflect on your past. Is there anything that you need to bring before the Father and confess? Something that you've done or something that you've left undone? Would you own it, confess it, and receive forgiveness? And if you find yourself in a garden-like moment today that you are living in liminal space, acknowledge the pain, cry out to the Father, and be reminded that Jesus loves to take that which is broken and he turns it into something beautiful.